I think the most devastating headline last week actually got the fewest mentions in the mainstream media. Scores declining again for 13-year-old American students in reading and mathematics. In fact, reading came in at the lowest level since the early 1970s. Math, the lowest level since 1980. Now, students also missing up to 4 days of school this year. That surged to 15%. But get this, students missing 5 days or more has leaped from 10% to 15%. It was just 10% back in 2020. The nation, of course, was already in the grips of an educational crisis. This is before the pandemic, and then those hand-fisted rules that crushed the spirits of our kids during the pandemic. But there's something else maybe afoot these days. I mean, the bottom line, there seems to be more concern about wresting control of our children from parents than kids being able to compete in a modern world. My next guests are not just proponents, though, of school choice. They're actually taking actions to address the issue. Joining me now, Florida Congressman Byron Donalds, along with his wife, Optima Ed founder and former school board member Erica Donalds. Want to thank you both very much for coming on. And I'd love to start with you, Erica, because you were a former school board member. Then you started Optima Academy. So what did you see inside the system, so to speak, that sparked that decision?
Well, thanks for having me. And, you know, what I saw as a school board member was that parents were dissatisfied with having only one option. Here in our community in South Florida, many parents really had the option of just sending their child to their zip code school. They did not have access to private education because of their income. They did not have access to charter schools. Thankfully, it's been almost 10 years since I started serving on the school board. Florida has made huge strides in giving access to HB1, now education savings accounts. Charter schools are expanding, but we have a long way to go to really give parents the education freedom they deserve and create a free market in the education system that will give rise to innovation and access to everyone.
Is that the difference that you find with the academy and those sort of alternatives to public school?
There is a huge difference. We espouse classical education. I think every family should make the choice that's best for their children, best for their lifestyle. But Optima Academy Online will bring a classical education to students for free wherever they are in the state of Florida and now in the state of Arizona and expanding to other states. But that's what parents are looking for. They're looking for a back to basics, traditional education that doesn't follow educational fads, but most importantly, that doesn't teach values that are contrary to what they're teaching at home and not political beliefs or gender ideology. Parents don't want that. Whether they're on the left or the right, they want to teach those things at home. They want schools to do their jobs. And I think to your earlier points about our reading scores, schools are distracted by these political and ideological views.
Yeah, I like what you call educational fads. I looked at some old tests they used to give back like 60, 70, 80 years ago. I wonder if kids could pass those. Representative Donalds, voters in Virginia and certainly in your state, I thought they sent a resounding message to politicians throughout the country. Hey, stop trying to take away parental rights. But it seems like then Democrats have only gotten more emboldened and even more direct. So how do you explain that? Because we're seeing a lot of states now go even further with the notion that they have more rights over your kids than we do.
Well, I think really a lot of that is stemming from the fact that a lot of Democrat officials, frankly, all of them, they win their elections with the help of the teachers union. And the teachers union does not want to see different avenues for children being educated. I just want to be very direct about that point. The work that myself, a lot of my colleagues that we support is parents being at the front of the line, them being able to make actual purchasing power, purchasing decisions when it comes to their child's education. But when they make these decisions, sometimes that means you're going to a school that is not unionized. So who finds fault with that are the union bosses. Right. They're the ones that are causing a lot of these issues. Right. And you have Democrat politicians that follow suit. But be very clear, voters, whether they live in blue states or red states, inner cities or suburban areas, they are choosing school choice. They are choosing parental empowerment more and more. And I think Democrat officials, they're going to have to come to grips with that because that is where voters are going. And we have a responsibility to make sure that parents are at the front of the line and they can make those decisions on behalf of their children.
Representative Donalds, I'm with you on the school union part, but there's something deeper. There's something else going on here. About a year ago, Vice President Harris talked about the kids being part of the community. I mean, I feel like there's a different sort of ideology that believes that somehow the system or a group of, I don't know who you would call them, but they can make better decisions for your children than you can. It feels much deeper than just these students, these school teachers.
Well, I think that is at the core of the Democrat Party as it exists today. They believe they can make better decisions for everybody. It's not just in education. It's even with entrepreneurs. It's with people in our financial community. It's with people in our law enforcement community. They think that they have all the prescriptions, and time again, it has failed too many Americans in too many walks of life, and it's failing our kids when it comes to education. When you lock kids out of schools for 2 years and wonder why they're falling behind, make no mistake about it, it's because it's of terrible public health policy that the Democrat Party followed lock, stock, and barrel. So what we need to get back is the simple common sense. We got to put parents at the front of the line, and people need to understand that by and large, Democrat policy is policy where they are going to make the decisions, and you have to wait for them to decide about what your choices really are. And that's simply not good enough for the American people.
I don't have much time, maybe less than a minute, but Erica, I got to ask you, something else stood out in this report. 14% of students reported that they read for fun on their own time. That's down from 27% in 2012. How do we, I mean, parents even watching this show may be struggling with this. How do we make reading fun again?
Well, it does start in school, because what type of reading has been taught in school has not worked. It is not working for students to read for recreation or for knowledge. We're seeing that across the board with scores. Thankfully, there's an emergence of the science of reading, and more schools are adopting the old way of learning to read. That's going to translate into more students wanting to read at home. But it is our responsibility as parents to enforce reading habits at home. The kids don't want to do it, but it's so important to build those habits so that they can gain knowledge over the long term. It's really the responsibility of parents ultimately, and a culture of reading and knowledge that is valued across the board.
Absolutely. I just want to say thank you for the work you're doing, both of you, Representative Byron Donalds and Erica Donalds. Fantastic. Keep at it. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.